Hello and welcome to Conversations with B'nai B'rith International. I'm CEO Dan Mariaschin. Thank you for spending some time with us today. If you enjoy our conversation series, make sure you never miss an interview by subscribing to the B'nai B'rith YouTube channel and liking us on Facebook. And be sure to visit our website, bnaibrith.org, to learn more about our work across the globe. Since its inception in Germany a few years ago, the DEIN Association, a consortium of Jewish and non-Jewish groups, has been positively weighing in on conversations surrounding Jewish life and culture and the history of Israel. It's also engaging in the fight against anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Today, Dr. Leo Sucharewicz, Israel advocate, political scientist, psychologist, author, and DEIN's co-founder, and Dr. Oren Osterer, an expert on Israeli history, who serves as project manager for DEIN's traveling installation, a survey of Israeli history titled 1948, The Exhibit, will speak about how the show's critical reception and its nationwide response has produced a tremendous response from the public. They will also elaborate on DEIN's mission and its upcoming projects. Leo, Oren, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Well, before we speak about DEIN's current successful project, the touring display devoted to Israel's history, I think our audience would like to know more about your organization and how it came to be. So, when was DEIN founded and by whom? And especially, what inspired you to create it?
Well, the inspiration was quite a tough inspiration. The growing anti-Semitism megatrend in Germany, and the Jewish community of Munich and Bavaria, or Jewish community in Upper Bavaria, decided to do something against us and asked us to develop a full integrated concept, and that's what we did. What has to be done? Anti-Semitism for us means toxic information. And in our concept, we focused on three elements. One is fighting toxic anti-Israel information, means anti-Israel propaganda. Second element, fighting anti-Semitic toxic information, means anti-Semitic propaganda. And third is inside the Jewish community to raise up performance. So far, we think we are not performing in something what we can call information war, anti-Semitic and anti-Israel information war. Of course, the word you can discuss about the word, you can have semantic discussions, but less or more, it is an information war, and our performance has to be improved. So that's this where, if you want, the original inspiration and the three elements then we built up. And we started with 1948 because we discovered that in Germany, around 120 high-performing Palestinian and semi-Palestinian organizations are producing day by day on an, you can say, as an industrial system, anti-Israel propaganda information. So we decided to fight that with the exhibition 1948. Now, Oren will explain you all about how it started and what you called, absolutely entitled to call, tremendous success.
Leo, before we move to Oren, just one more question about the name of your organization. DEIN, I know from the Yiddish of my parents, I know it means your. Tell us a little about the name and why you chose it.
Yeah, well, DEIN is an acronym. The full name of our organization is called Democracy and Information NGO. So DE of democracy and IN of information. That's to make it short. Second, it is if you want, DEIN, the expression you or yours, is the combination, of the old Hellenistic and the intellectual demand that each one has to put on himself to care about what is going on around him, not only to look on his private businesses or social businesses. To it to in order to follow our strategy, and the strategy includes not only to work as a Jewish movement, but to involve and include non-Jewish personals, non-Jewish NGOs for a common fight against democracy, against anti-democratic and anti-Zionistic and anti-Semitic tendencies, which are getting stronger in Germany with the hyper-liberal opinion about freedom of speech and so on. So that's why.
Well, of course, what's happening in Germany is, frankly, not too different than what's happening in many other places around the world. I mean, there's been a tremendous spike in anti-Semitism, country to country, continent to continent. And I gather that your approach, which is countering the irrationality of anti-Semitism as well as dispelling anti-Israel sentiment, manifests itself in a number of different ways, which we'd like to talk about, but particularly in this exhibition, 1948, the exhibit. So, Oren, let's move to you. This particular exhibition has garnered support from a wide range of interfaith groups and businesses. So tell us more about the involvement of non-Jewish groups, who they are, and the reasons for their passion, their dedication, and their commitment, both in financial and other ways, especially to support this exhibit in 1948.
Yes, maybe Dan, if you allow, let me first say a few words why we came up with an exhibition on 1948 and the founding history of Israel. You know, the DEIN Association was founded in 2017, so actually could have been a very good idea to make something on the Six-Day War or on other issues regarding Israel, but we choose 1948 for a specific reason, and that is that from our assessment, what happened ever since the Second Intifada, so let's say ever since 2005, 2006, that the discourse on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or if you wish, the Israeli-Arab conflict, has been pushed back from what it used to be, which was the issue of the 1967 Six-Day War and its aftermath and its consequences, whether we have occupied or liberated or disputed territories. This discourse was pushed back to the very foundation of the State of Israel, to the very core of whether such a state has a legitimacy to exist. Of course it does. Whether what happened in 1948 and the struggle and the independence war of Israel was something that was legitimate, that was morally right. Of course it was. But this discourse has been pushed back, as I said, by, let's call them what they are, the enemies of Israel. And so we decided in 2017 to not tackle the Six-Day War or any other issue, but to tackle the very, very founding of the State of Israel, because it's important to go where the discourse is taking place. And it's important, and this is what we do with the exhibition, to again gain control over the discourse. Now, we have endless number of Jewish and non-Jewish organizations all over Germany who have supported the exhibition in a way that we did not really imagine to become true. You have to imagine that within less than 2 years from the first presentation of the exhibition on May 14th, 2018 until March 2020, until Corona came in. So in less than two years, we showed this exhibition in more than 60 places all over Germany. Among them, city halls, state governments, universities, high schools, churches, NGOs, you name it. And of course, most of those organizations that brought the exhibition to their respective places are not necessarily Jewish organizations and not necessarily Zionist organizations, but organizations from the civil society that are very interested in keeping Germany and Europe a democratic place, a place without anti-Semitism and a place without anti-Zionism. And And I don't have to tell you, but there's a lot of costs that amount once you do such an exhibition, once you want it to travel around. And of course, these organizations are also financially involved whenever they bring the exhibition to their places. And we feel it's overwhelming to have so many, even student associations. And today you would think about students associations as being very hardcore left wing, very anti-Israel, very anti-Zionism, but by far not all of them are. And there's a lot of young and student organizations and other organizations that take the fight on anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism very, very seriously. And these are our natural partners, and we are very happy to have them on our side. And we are very, very happy to be able to deliver something substantial to them with the exhibition 1948.
Well, I think you're so right. I think today, when we hear from the enemies of Israel, we hear about the occupation, we hear about apartheid state coming out of NGOs like Amnesty International. And you're right. I mean, I think the idea here is the delegitimization. It's demeaning, but it's the delegitimization here of the very idea of the Zionist enterprise, the idea of the Jewish state. And with the passage of time, that memories fade, new generations come and are subject to the kind of distortions of history, rewriting of history, revisionist history, call it what you will, and that puts us in the place that we are today. I find it very interesting, of course, that this is in Germany for all of the obvious reasons, and it's so important in that sense to re-educate new generations. But let's talk about the exhibit itself and outline its parameters. How is it organized? What are the themes? What is it covered? I mean, you go back to the Jewish presence in ancient times, the Hebrew language, the pre-mandate era or beyond. Oren?
We start, if you wish, at in the year 2000 BC, okay, where the first settlement around Hebron took place, okay, the first settlements, what we today know as Hebron. So we cover all that time up until the Independence War, even further. But I would say that the focus of the exhibition is exactly what we would consider the modern era of Zionism and the pre-mandate and mandate era, and the era, of course, of the 1930s, 1940s, up until the founding of the State of Israel, the Independence War, and we have a few exhibition panels at the end that speak about what you just mentioned, also that totally absurd opinion that Israel is an apartheid state. Yeah, we do talk about that, and we do talk about why this is not the case. And I think we give very nice examples there why Israel is not an apartheid state or anything close to an apartheid state. And we do cover, of course, at the end of the exhibition also a little bit about the peace initiatives that have been taken on by Israel, about those that have failed, the many that have failed, and the few that have that were successful. But the core of the exhibition definitely is really the founding history of the modern state of Israel, while we are covering the period before that, let's say 2,000, 3,000 years before that of Jewish history, and we do cover somewhat the time up until today. So the second half of the 20th century and another 20 years, if you wish.
Yeah, and telling the story about Zionism, which is the liberation movement of the Jewish people, how do you focus that? How do you present it to the new generation, to younger people? Leo?
Okay. Well, the whole exhibition is based on, let's call it, with all possible modesty, let's call it state of the art of political psychology and state of the art of persuasion. We know, and we proved it, that it is possible to get the Palestinian anti-Israel propaganda out of the head and pro-Israel information in the heads and in the hearts. And that's very important. From the communication strategical point of view, we have to admit that due to decades, after 67, decades of low performance of Jewish communities, Jewish institutions, fighting anti-Israel and anti-Semitic propaganda, majorities in Europe on the campuses are anti-Israel. They are filled with anti-Israel information. So what we have to admit it, and we have to see that realistically, what we are focusing on is to educate and to win a growing number of pro-Israel visitors of this exhibition. We are building in Germany, if you want, a legion, non-Jewish legion, thousands and thousands of people who have seen the exhibition, which are really wanting to fight the Palestinian propaganda. So we do careful evaluation, we do surveys, so we know that we know two things. First of all, it's possible to acquire and to win masses and numbers of people, non-Jewish visitors, which are ready to fight and which are really ready to learn and to commit themselves for this pro-Israel fight. So that's the if you want, the communication strategical purpose, and that works very fine. It works slow, yes, because we have very limited resources, but the good thing is the exhibition is doing the job. All we need is to bring as many visitors as possible in online or physical. The rest is done.
Oren, what is the public response when folks go through the exhibition? Now they're leaving. I don't know if you do exit interviews or maybe something a little less formal than that. Because capturing that those immediate impressions of what people have seen is, of course, very valuable in assessing the effectiveness of any exhibition. What kind of reactions have you received?
I'd say that the typical reaction is people want to visit the exhibition again, most likely right away, because it's, you have to imagine it's 32 exhibition panels. It's not a small exhibition. Okay, it's quite a big, but from content, speaking from the content perspective, we get the feedback that there's so much in there that people say, oh, I learned this different at school, which can be the case actually. And there is a very quite known research that has been done also on German school books on the issue of Jewish presentation and Israel. And the other reaction that we get is, oh, I never knew that, like fact A or fact B. Okay. Oh, I never knew that the Arabs tried to or invaded Israel after the Declaration of Independence. And the third, most interesting feedback is, oh, right, I forgot about that. So what we do here is two things. First of all, we bring things to the we bring facts and information to the front that probably people had never known, or had been told differently. And secondly, we remind them of things that they did know or that they did learn in school or at university, for example. And these are the two main categories: something they had never known, or something that they forgot. Okay, so this is the main feedback that we basically get. But again, as I said in the beginning, I'm traveling with the exhibition basically. I've been to probably 55 out of 68 places. Okay, and I've talked to people and I've seen them go through the exhibition. As I said in the beginning, I would say 95% of them want to come again and read again and see again the pictures and get again the information. So we have a lot of people that actually take pictures of the panels. It's totally okay for us. We have produced a catalog, and we have produced, when Corona started, a website where you can see the whole exhibition online. So you don't have to make it to any of the numerous places. You can visit the exhibition and look at it from your PC at home.
Well, that's encouraging. You know, in the I didn't know that category. I've found, and I think you cover this in the exhibition. For example, the 800,000 Jews who fled Arab lands. You know, 10 countries at that time, 10 Arab countries had issued decrees of one sort or another, essentially either making Jews feel very unwelcome or expelling them altogether. For years, you know, this particular issue kind of, you know, just lay fallow. I mean, people didn't really talk about it. Now, of course, in recent years, we do. But in the interim, the issue of Palestinian refugees only, and that there were no Jewish refugees at that time, is something which is kind of had gone down a big black hole. And you deal with questions like that, correct?
Very correct. And see, this is one of the perfect examples of what Leo has mentioned before. We are probably 50 years facing 50 years of propaganda and information war, information strategies from the other side, while we have kept silent. And now this is a perfect example. I mean, the story of the Jews from the Arab world that were expelled or had to become refugees, as you said, was never discussed. It never was an issue, even though it's a huge issue. Okay, and I think that what we do is we bring this issue, we bring different other topics to the front. Is that we have to accept that we are in a situation where we are faced, even as Jews in Germany or Jews somewhere else in Europe or Jews in the States, we are faced with a mega trend of anti-Israel sentiments, anti-Zionism sentiments, and we have to give up this kind of mentality where we think it's not right to go into this kind of war. Israel might be the stronger part in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, so let them talk, but Israel will be safe as for its strong army and so on. We have to give that up. We have to understand that we are being drawn, and we have been being drawn into a conflict which we have not chosen. It's not our wish to fight and this struggle, but we also cannot escape. So we have to bring the arguments that are there, and there are a lot of arguments, and historical truth is actually on the side of Israel and much less on the Palestinian or Arab propaganda side or neo-Nazi or left-wing propaganda against Israel. And we don't have to feel bad about showing historical truth. Okay, as I said, people say, oh, I never knew the Arabs invaded Israel in 1948. I always thought this was a war that the Jews started. This is some kind of feedback that we get. So it's so important to really bring this out there. And this might be very interesting for your audience here, is that we are now really ready to bring the exhibition to any country in the world. And we're already in very good touch with some organizations in some countries, even overseas. And we do this, I would say, from my point of view, I have the vision that in 2023, for the 75th anniversary of Israel's founding, the exhibition will be in 15 to 20 places all over the globe. That is really the vision that we have for the next year and the exhibition.
Well, you mentioned you've got the catalog and you have the website, and we'll get that website address a little bit later so people can go to it. Leo, are you planning a separate educational component by itself, geared to students, of course, educating young people about anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, Holocaust denial, which is a growing problem now, particularly as more and more survivors pass away. This is all very, very crucial. So is there in your plan, looking ahead, a long-term educational component which can go side by side or grow out of 1948, the exhibit?
Well, if I understand your questions right, we have a second component, as I mentioned at the beginning, and that is called We Jews. It's an online exhibition, and actually it's a pendant to the exhibition 1948, but focusing on anti-Semitism. And again, like we had in 1948, focuses of the Palestinian propaganda like land, refugees, and so on. And we are able with the exhibition to reverse the information. We do the same in the exhibition We Jews. It shows Jews all over the world. It's in Africa, in China, in Asia, wherever, Indian Jews, and so on, South America. We break the prejudice that the Nazi propaganda implanted in the collective long-term memory, and there is something like a collective long-term memory. We wipe out the mimetic ballast that societies are, let's say, suffering, the anti-Semitic mimetic ballast, and bring in and substitute it, and replace the prejudice and discrimination with appreciation. And again, the exhibition does the job. It does it himself. Means whoever visits it may come in as a neo-Nazi, may come in with certain prejudices, or may come in not knowing anything about Jews. Let's call it neutral. But whoever comes in, he comes out of the exhibition differently. Neo-Nazis, when they see Nazis or real hardcore anti-Semite, when they go into that exhibition and see, then they at least have something what we call in German, you call it cognitive dissonance. They come out differently. Those who are the neutrals, the normal people, they come out perfectly immunized. They cannot be infected with the virus of anti-Semitism whatsoever, especially not with the racistic anti-Semitism of the Nazi area. So, and we follow the same principle. The exhibition is a tool that allows for a growing number of speakers to display it in schools and universities, in places, and well, actually all over. And our next step is to give special programs, special lectures to judges, to police forces, Bundeswehr, to teachers. And guess what? The interest is very high. It's really high. We are sometimes amazed ourselves. Now, how do we know all about it? Because we made tests at the beginning, tests with right extreme youngsters, so we know their reaction, and we have a very tough evaluation. So again, the same like we was 48. We do ongoing surveys, and we have an online form in the exhibition, so we know exactly what they think about. For example, there is one question. Before I have seen the exhibition, I thought Jews are ... And then after visiting the exhibition, I think Jews are. And then ... they can fill. And so we have thousands of these feedbacks, some of them really, really amazing. I give you a funny example. Before I saw the exhibition, I thought Jews are good on chosen people. Now I know Jews are good. After visiting the exhibition, I know Jews are good swimmers. Why? Because there is a chapter of Jewish sport, Jews in sport. People like Mark Spitz and others and so on. So we have a lot of funny, a lot of inspiring feedback, and a lot of feedback that we learn. So these are both of the components.
Well, let me ask you a question. 1948, the exhibit has been shown in the 60 communities in Germany. Germany sitting in the heart of Europe. Does DEIN have a relationship with the European Union? European Union now, at least a couple of its agencies are committed to the exploration of new approaches to the fight against anti-Semitism online, for example. Is there any kind of conversation or cooperation that you've had with the one of these EU agencies?
Well, Corona avoided the exhibition in the European Parliament, 1948 in European Parliament in Brussels. Oren can tell you more about it. Oren, would you?
Well, no, it's good to know, because we've worked with a couple of the EU agencies now for several years, ODIHR, and with others, people like Katharina von Schnurbein, who has led the way in fighting anti-Semitism. And it seems that at least some of these agencies, I'm not talking about the EU on a political or geopolitical basis, because we've had some strains between the EU and Israel. But on the level of fighting anti-Semitism, for example, there seems to be some cooperation. Just wondered whether you had those ties as well.
Well, we had contact with Katharina von Schnurbein. I felt that she loves the exhibition, both of the exhibitions, and she said in our conversation that she is ready to support it.
Well, that's great.
Definitely.
That's great.
But sorry to interrupt you, but of course, we appreciate any help, any logistic support to export 1948 and we Jews.
So are there any plans at all to bring it to the United States, which is where I'm sitting right now?
Of course, there are plans, but the United States is a big country, as you know. We are in touch with a couple of organizations that are located and headquartered in the United States. See, we're looking when we're talking about bringing the exhibition, especially 1948, to a new country or to another country. We're looking at a local partner in that country that is capable and willing to really run the whole project over the whole of the country. Okay. In Germany, of course, we work differently. We work with different organizations in different cities and towns. But this way, in globalizing the exhibition, we want one partner in one country, ideally. Now, the United States is a big country. There's a West Coast and there's an East Coast and there's the Midwest, basically. So that we might have a different constellation here. We'll look into that. But of course, there's plans to bring it to the United States. One of the organizations that we're in touch with, for example, which I like very much because it's a very young and dynamic organization and it's very active on social media, Stand With Us, that you probably most likely know. We'll meet them in April in their headquarters in Israel. And there's many other countries, I have to admit, that are very interested. There's Canada, there's New Zealand, there's Australia, there's South Africa. Of course, there's a lot of European countries. And as I said before, I'm not only my vision, but I'm very, very positive that in 2023 the exhibition will be shown in 15 to 20 countries around the world.
Well, there's 190 some 94, 93 members of the United Nations, and I think each one certainly would benefit, or the people of each of those countries would benefit, as we all would, from this exhibition. But 20 to 30 is certainly sounds not only doable but necessary, and I think that's extremely important. We wish you well on that. Tell us about the website. What's the address? Because we want to make sure that that's up there so our viewers can go to the website to learn more about DEIN's work.
Well, for now, the website is in German. So all your German listeners or German-speaking listeners are very much invited to www.1948-web.de. DE, of course, is the abbreviation for Deutschland, Germany. So 1948-web.de. You can see all of the exhibition panels and some other stuff. For example, there's one area of the website where you can only see all the images that have been used in the exhibition with the corresponding descriptions. There's one area where you have all the quotations, just the quotations from the exhibition. I think we have if I'm not mistaken, around 120 quotations in the exhibition or something like that, with a huge amount of pictures and images. So and the maps, what I think also is very interesting. I mean, we have maps all over the exhibition, but you can have them very concentrated in one area of the website. You can just look at how the maps changed, you know, from the Ottoman Empire to the Mandate, to the Peel Commission plan, then to the actual UN partition plan of 1947, and so on. I think that's a very interesting area of the website. But as I said, or I might have not mentioned that before, we already have the complete English translation of the exhibition. And we are, as soon as there's an organization, the first organization that says, okay, we'll bring it to an English-speaking country, they will also be the first to be able to use it, the English translation on a website. It's part of the deal. So we don't only, I have to say that the exhibition 1948 is at the core of a much broader project, okay? What we see in different cities in Germany is they bring the exhibition, they have the exhibition for 4 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever, but around the exhibition, they build like a huge framework program with seminars, with lectures, with workshops, with the panel discussions, with movie screenings. And also what we bring to the table to any organization worldwide that wants to bring the exhibition is a endless pool of ideas, what you can do around the exhibition. We give a lot of quite a lot of services, and most of all, we let them have all of our experience that we made in Germany in regards to PR, in regards on how to approach, for example, how to tackle the big issue of fundraising, because of course there are costs involved. So we know that there are a lot of organizations out there that don't need our expertise, but those who do, we very, very happily let them take part in our expertise and our experience and profit from it.
Well, it seems to
me.
me.
On the other hand,
go ahead, Leo.
Yeah, well, the website, it's called www. And then first in Germany, wir-juden.com. That means WIR minus JUDEN.com, means wejews.com. It's really, it really got me.
Well, it seems to me that the same creativeness that went into creativity that went into choosing DEIN as the name for the association has now gone into the name for the website. I would say this, that between We Jews and 1948, the exhibit, the efforts that you have made to bring this information, particularly now as we're about, this year, of course, will be the 74th anniversary of the state, reestablishment of the state of Israel. Next year will be the 75th, Oren, as you pointed out. Extremely important. There's always a focus on the Middle East and always a focus on Israel, but the 75th anniversary is a great milestone. And it seems to me as if the work that you've done on both of these areas at a time when we have so much anti-Israel activity worldwide, time when we have this tremendous ratcheting up of anti-Semitism, that the work you've done couldn't be more timely. So we thank you for all that you've done. My thanks to our guests today, Leo Sucharewicz and Oren Osterer, for their insightful presentation on Germany's DEIN Association and all of the important and vital work that it is accomplishing. Leo, Oren, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having us.
Thanks again to my guests for being here to speak with us about DEIN and its traveling installation on Israel 1948, the exhibit. And of course, to all of our viewers, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you never miss a program by subscribing to the B'nai B'rith YouTube channel, liking us on Facebook, and following us on Twitter and Instagram as well. And be sure to visit our website, bnaibrith.org, to learn more about our own important work. For my guests, Leo Sucharewicz and Oren Osterer, and for B'nai B'rith, I'm Dan Mariaschin. See you again soon.